I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, Honorable, say aye.
The motion to extend the COVID-19 state of emergency from May 16th to October 16th, 2021, passed the House of Assembly late Tuesday night. Prime Minister Allen Chastanet closed off the debate with his rebuttal doubling down on a measure he says helped tamp down periodic flare-ups in cases throughout the pandemic. The government leader argues that curfews, which can only be legally imposed by a state of emergency, have proven effective in mitigating infections, blaming the SLP's October 2020 march for the pandemic's drawbacks.
They argued and argued that we shouldn't do it and there should be no extensions, and instead used the opportunity now to do the infamous march. A march that had been pre-planned all the way back since July. They had it in their minds that they were going to do it, the largest march ever. And what did we have in October? 97 cases. All of a sudden, November, 138 cases. December, 147 cases. January, 1,859 cases. February, 1,542. Now in March, 509. And April, back down to 251. And what is the difference, Mr. Speaker? Is the moment that we reintroduced the state of the emergency and put back into the protocols, we were able to now bring our numbers back down. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is there.
It should be noted that the third wave of the pandemic, which began in January 2021, was attributed to the post-Christmas holiday season. Chastanet rebuffed any notion of a volunteer curfew, saying such a move has been difficult to enforce. The Prime Minister, who lectured the members opposite, questioned the sincerity of their People's First slogan, claiming the SLP is more concerned with the upcoming election.
Their concern is whether in fact the state of the emergency is going to impede or derail the ability to have what they consider to be a normal election. And even to that extent, thinking that the state of emergency is being deliberately done in order to somehow cause the elections to be delayed. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are lawyers and constitutional people and people who've been in the civil service as permanent secretaries who clearly understand how to read the Constitution. I will never deny them that fact. Not complicated, Mr. Speaker. Not complicated. So, what did you have? How is the state of the emergency going to stop the election from taking place, Mr. Speaker? Since when a state of emergency affects it? When in St. Kitts they had a state of emergency, did it affect them in having an election? When Jamaica had a state of emergency, did it affect them having the election? When Trinidad and Tobago had elections with a state of emergency, did it affect them having an election, Mr. Speaker? The answer is no. Categorically. Okay, Mr. Speaker? It does not impede the ability to have an election. So, Mr. Speaker, why is it that the members on this side came to this House to support the idea of a state of emergency? Because we still have cases.
The UWP administration is banking on getting the nation vaccinated to achieve herd immunity, but public health measures are still required. The Prime Minister, who continues to pat his government on the back, blames the opposition, who he alleges co-opted some civil society groups in upending the progress made by his administration.
You can't argue the facts. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, up until October of 2020, given the fact that we had opened our economy, we had people coming in here, and activity was taking place, and we were able to keep our numbers to what they were, St. Lucia was the best prepared in the entire Caribbean. And you would have thought that members on the opposite side, Mr. Speaker, understanding the underlying health conditions in this country, would have celebrated that fact with us. No, they came to this House, protested, walked out, refused to participate, called us all kinds of things, got other associations to get themselves involved to question the validity of bringing in a new act. Where were the people? At what point were you putting the country first? When? At what point, Mr. Speaker? At what point did they put the country first? That's what I fail to understand. At all times, it's always been about putting themselves first. Politics first. That is what the priority has been. In fact, they've been on a campaign to say that there was going to be elections in October, in November, in December. I think if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Speaker, the former Prime Minister said that we were going to have elections for sure in May.
Chastanet, who harkened back to the tumult of 1979 to 1982, cast the opposition as an uncooperative lot, getting into testy exchanges whenever members opposite invoked the name of Sir John Compton.
Mr. Speaker, so even when they talk about the daughter, when they went to Sir John's house with a mob,
Honorable
yelling and screaming at everybody that was going on at the house.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
There's no need.
No, Mr. Speaker, I'm just saying to you, it's for me to respond, Mr. Speaker. If the members on the opposite
But
side...
if you're going to respond to every statement now being said, Mr. Prime Minister, we shall
Well,
not...
I would say to you, Mr. Speaker, that's my parliamentary privilege.
I know, but then...
The Prime Minister pledged not to go contrary to the Constitution on the hosting of elections, denying that the extension of the SOE was a ruse to postpone the polls. Joachim de Blasi, HTS News Force.